Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farooq Patafi. Today we are going to talk about politics, but not Pakistani politics. We are going to talk about geopolitics, especially that which can become geoeconomics, but it hasn't. Why? Because of Afghanistan. And in Afghanistan, of course, many things keep on happening. Pakistan keeps on talking about playing a role, and it seems that it is a kind of situation where options actually keep on leaving us very quickly. One, the US has made it clear that it is going to withdraw, and then there was supposed to be post Afghanistan and post Doha, dialogue. There was supposed to be an intra-Afghan dialogue. There seems to be one consensus among various, struggling or fighting parties of Afghanistan, that is Pakistan. On one side, Hamdullah Mohib, the National Security Advisor of Afghanistan, keeps on using pejoratives for Pakistan, very abusive and very negative kind of language. But that is not all. The sad part was that he actually practically threw his own diaspora under the bus when he said that if Pakistan doesn't cooperate or Pakistan doesn't do this, that or the other thing, there might be a blowback not only from Afghanistan but also Afghan refugees. There are roughly around 3 million Afghan refugees in Pakistan, and they have been through quite a hard time in the past as well. Nobody would want them to live in a circumstance where they are continuously suspected. There is one side. On the other side, Afghan Taliban, because there was speculation whether Pakistan or any other neighbor of Afghanistan is going to offer any kind of air bases to any to the US or NATO allies. There was a warning coming from Afghan Taliban also. And in that they said that none of these neighbors should do anything of the sort. It seems to be agenda setting for other countries, right? Although there is consensus in Pakistan that there shouldn't be such bases, but this is the kind of warnings that should disturb you. So we are going to talk about all these matters and why Pakistan keeps on acting like the giving tree or the happy prince rather than cutting the losses and only making its own country secure. We are going to talk about all these matters. Before I introduce the panelists, let me show you a report that our team has prepared. Right, there seems to be some complication. We are going to actually look into this, but let me introduce the guest I've got in the studio. Next to me in the studio sits Dr. Syed Muhammad Ali, who is Director of Center of Aerospace and Security Studies. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Umar Khan Ali Sherzai Saab, former ambassador, who has actually as a career diplomat served in Afghanistan also. He also joins. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. And on Skype, we are joined by Lieutenant General retired named Khalid Lodi Saab, who is former Defense Minister. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program as well. Let me start with your permission, General Saab. Start with the studio. Muhammad Ali Saab, your take on Afghanistan and the direction the peace process or lack thereof is going to take. And what should Pakistan be doing right now?
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. I think the prospects for the success of peace process unfortunately seem to be declining with each passing day, and there are three reasons for that. Number one, you see the withdrawal of the Western troops has accelerated, and there are statements which indicate that perhaps the US troops will withdraw perhaps earlier than the 9/11 deadline that they have themselves unilaterally set. Secondly, in the last 4 weeks, almost 26 bases and posts have been vacated, and the resistance from the Afghan National Army to against the Afghan Taliban does not seem to be as much as it was feared. So the Afghan Taliban are moving faster than expected, and the resistance that they are facing is less than what was initially feared, despite some very irresponsible statements coming from the people like the Afghan National Security Advisor, which Pakistani Foreign Office has also condemned. But the most important thing for Pakistan is that once there is an escalation, there is a possibility of escalation in violence between Kabul administration and Afghan Taliban, how well prepared we are to manage its consequences.
Okay.
That is the most important thing.
Consequences within Pakistan.
Within Pakistan, absolutely. While our diplomatic efforts are geared up and they are intense and going on to try to make this peace process succeed, but we need to have a plan B, that in case it does not succeed, we need to ensure that the lessons of past should be learned, and in case, because if there is escalation of violence, there will be a huge influx of refugees, which the current economic situation and the COVID crisis will further aggravate. Secondly, there could be a political implication. I think some ethnic movements could also cash on to that. And lastly, and most importantly, two things which are very important. One is CPEC development. I hope any security related challenges that we are likely to face do not affect the CPEC development and progress, and also our focus from our eastern border should not change, because we are trying to secure our western border.
Right. These are very quite visible concerns, Ambassador Saab. But the same question, same opening statement. How do you see the process actually panning out?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I partially agree with Dr. Saab.
Right.
The fact of the matter is that of course, the Americans will withdraw before the deadline. But we are, frankly speaking, not prepared. We have not made any plans as yet to cope with the situation after the withdrawal of the American troops. Having said that, I have no doubt, and as Dr. Saab rightly said, that the Afghan Taliban are not those Talibans of about a decade earlier. Now they are absolutely changed, and they have international support also from Russia, from China, and from lots of other countries as well. They are not lonely as they were before.
Okay.
But for Pakistan, the most important thing is the fallout of the withdrawal of the American troops.
Right.
Well, of course, there would be some kind of problems in Afghanistan, because there are elements who would not really accept the Taliban regime easily. But having said that, I have no doubt that the Taliban are so powerful that after the withdrawal of the American troops, they would overrun the entire Afghanistan. Because now they are holding more than
9/11.
They are
9/11. They actually overwhelmed most of Afghanistan, with the exception of Panjshir area.
And
So they never actually managed to do that. That's why this happened.
even now they are holding to more than almost more than half of the Afghan territory is under the control of the Taliban. So I have no doubt that immediately after the withdrawal of the American and allied troops, the Taliban would overrun and take over the entire Afghanistan.
Right.
It would have been much better if some interim arrangements had been made by the Americans before leaving Afghanistan. But unfortunately, I think it is by design that they wanted to leave Afghanistan in a very chaotic situation.
Okay. Financially, at least, it makes sense when you look at it through the Washington, prism, because one understands that in this economic crisis, it seems that one should be cutting their losses. But of course, for Afghanistan, it doesn't bode well. Let me bring in Dr. General retired name Khalid Lodi Saab. General Saab, your take on the future of peace process and the possible fallout for Pakistan.
Thank you very much. I think at times I get surprised once I listen that when the occupation forces will leave, it will be bad for Afghanistan. I mean, this is the crux of what people keep saying. I fail to understand this logic. They came, they occupied this country, stayed here for 20 years, did not bring peace, and now once they are going, we are again shouting that why are they going, and they were never interested in peace, and they are not interested in peace in future also, so why are you expecting from them? The earlier they go, the better. And if you remember, dear Pratapi, I was the one who said that Americans will leave Afghanistan. Everybody was saying they will never leave. I was the one who said that they will leave before September, and everybody was saying no, they will going to. Now let me say a few more things. If the combined forces of NATO, US, Ashraf Ghani, Daesh, Tehrik-e-Taliban, Pakistan and so many could not defeat Afghan Taliban, Ashraf Ghani alone will not be able to do it. And your friend sitting here has already said that.
Right. General Sahab, you said that this concern that the US is now actually withdrawing, and why is anybody actually expressing alarm at that? There are two caveats here, right? One, they had invaded the country and then it broke the system and something new has not worked. The second thing is, it is a concern that keeps on coming from Pakistani state also, not merely from, analysts sitting in Islamabad.
So I understand that. Now, the two golden principles, which I am also supportive of that we should have no favorites. And we say that we have no favorites. And the second is the solution should be Afghan-led and Afghan-owned. I fully subscribe to this, provided nobody else also does not interfere in Afghanistan. Now, for example, if we know that because of the power balance over there, if everybody leaves, Afghan Taliban are going to take over Afghanistan. So, what does it? Why are you worried and why am I worried? If we say that Afghan-led, Afghan-owned solution, let it be there. And if you think that a lot of more people will come towards Pakistan, I think with this new fence which has come up and the control which we have, we don't know, saying that Pakistan government was not prepared is not correct. We were foreseeing all this. We knew all this is going to happen. So my dear sir, I would suggest hands off. Let the Afghans decide what, and I can tell you what will happen. There will be a short civil war. There will be a grand jirga, which will decide on the ground positions of the various forces. Afghan Taliban will become the major political, stakeholders. Ashraf Ghani, I keep on saying in your program, let me say it again, will not be seen on the scene at all. And that is the reason that Afghan Taliban, they don't talk to them, but they are talking to Abdullah, they are talking to Engineer Hikmatyar, they are talking to Uzbek, everybody. So they will make a coalition government and everything will be all right. It will not be as bad as it was before.
Right. I'm glad that you are saying after 20 years of a war that we should actually not worry about Afghanistan. I wish this advice could be given 20, 30, 40 years ago. But regardless, the concern is, of course, you spoke about the wall between Afghanistan and Pakistan. We are going to talk about that as well. But before we actually resume that discussion, that report at the start that we were about to show is ready. Let us watch that and then we are going to resume the discussion. Watch it.
Begun their retreat on May 1st, 2021. Donald Trump had for a long time called for US troops to come home and had criticized US military interventions for being costly and ineffective. The US started withdrawing troops from Afghanistan in early 2020. drawing back troops was a condition of the historic accord signed on 29 February 2020 by the US and Taliban aimed at securing peace in the country. But peace in Afghanistan will take more than an accord. History shows that economic growth and better job opportunities are necessary to rebuild stability after war. Careful and sustainable use of Afghanistan's abundant natural resources could be one path towards recovery. However, the structure of the new Afghan government and role of the state institutions set up since 2001 is unclear, which will be a big challenge to peace building and sustainability in Afghanistan. The power vacuum that will be left behind after the withdrawal of the US will encourage regional actors such as Pakistan, India, Iran and China to increase their influence and safeguard their own interests as well. Pakistan has played an integral role in the Afghan peace process and will look to gain more power in the region, whereas India would try to counter Pakistani influence as it aims at becoming an important actor in regional as well as world politics. China will look at Afghanistan as raw material for the expansion of the Belt and Road Initiative, securing economic influence over a struggling and war-torn nation. Therefore, the Afghan crisis will be perceived as a security as well as an economic issue for all stakeholders. Without intra-Afghan consensus and clear delineation of the way forward, peace in Afghanistan is a long shot.
Right. These are the concerns that we have been flagging for quite some time. We are going to discuss that and keep on elaborating. Let me come back to the studio, Mohammed Ali Saab. We are talking about, fallout on Pakistan. I'm, of course, hosting a program on Pakistan television. It is in the name that I have to, the only country that I have to worry about is Pakistan. And since we are talking about the fence, is that fence complete or it is not? And does it actually protect Pakistan? Because last time I heard that it was 80% complete and still work was going on, and still Afghan side could actually scale that or undermine that.
I think it is still in progress. It is in final stages.
Right.
But besides that, what we need to understand is that it is a very important measure that Pakistan has done after sacrificing a lot of its soldiers and
Right.
people who are responsible for protecting our borders. But the thing is, thousands of people, Ambassador Saab will tell you, travel on a daily basis every day.
Right.
And the screening process is not, unfortunately, terribly effective. And lot of people from TTP or BLA and BLF can infiltrate through the same route. So that is a real possibility. That when I am happy, and I completely agree with General Saab that Pakistan's traditional historical stance that there is no military solution to Afghan conflict stands vindicated by the US military withdrawal. However, its consequences are real, and to manage and to minimize its fallout on Pakistan's society, economy, security is a national security imperative as well.
Right.
So in that context, it is very important that we must ensure that once the influx comes, even if it is temporary, we should not repeat the mistakes which we did during the 80s.
Right.
Because let me briefly compare. More than 1 million people went to Iran as well. But why did Iran not face the Kalashnikov culture? Why did they not face the drugs culture? Why did they not have so many suicide bombings?
Right.
So these are the things. It's not about, somebody is coming and you just let them off anywhere they go.
Right.
Why can't you build camps and restrict them, provide them the facilities there,
Right.
but ensure that they do not infiltrate into and cause socio-economic, political and security problems.
Very, very quickly, when you were talking about thousands crossing border, were you talking about easement rights or were you talking about usual flux?
There is a daily number of thousands of people travel cross borders every day.
Divided families or something else?
Divided families as well.
So that actually falls in the easement right.
Yes,
And
yes.
50 kilometers.
But what is our plan? And I want to disagree with Ambassador Saab because I hope that those who are charged with the responsibility of internal security are doing meticulous and timely planning right now, that if there is an escalation in violence in Afghanistan, how many people we expect in terms of refugees, where are they going to be based, how are we going to ensure their security clearance, how will the administration be taken care of, what will be its implications for our economy, what will be its implications for our security, will they be tracked, monitored, controlled? These things need to be planned before it happens.
Right. Let me bring in Ambassador Saab once again. Ambassador Saab, one observation that I heard something like 4 or 5 years ago, that if you want to actually secure the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan, you will not merely have to actually fence the Dayton line, or for that matter, the border between the two countries, but you'll have to fence Goldsmith line as well, the Pakistan-Iran border, because if you don't do it, the miscreants can find a way through Iran into Pakistan as well. So do you think that we are at a place when we have taken care of these problems?
First of all, I would say that as it was the 80s, we were not prepared, and we really did not manage the Afghan refugees properly, with the result that we suffered a lot, lots of bombing, lots of killings at the hands of those refugees. My own feeling is, and that the government should plan like that, that in the first instance we should not allow any more refugees to come into our country.
Right.
We have enough of refugees from Afghanistan. There are other countries of the world. They should be flown from Afghanistan to those countries if they want. We have more than 3 million refugees, and we cannot afford any more refugees on our side. So we must get ourselves prepared to meet that kind of eventuality in case there are any problems and disturbances in Afghanistan after the withdrawal of the American troops. Secondly, I agree with General Saab, and me and General Saab have been repeatedly saying that the Americans will withdraw from Afghanistan. They cannot stay permanently, and they will withdraw sooner or later. And the better is that the sooner the better. So, of course, there is no alarm as such because of the withdrawal of the American or Allied troops. They are not stationed there to protect our interests. They are stationed there to protect their own interests.
Right.
So we should, frankly speaking, not be bothered about the withdrawal of the troops as such. But what we should be worried is that we have to prepare ourselves to meet any kind of eventuality after the withdrawal of the American
And
forces.
Ali Saab actually pointed out something else, that there is an influx that goes on.
Yes.
And we don't have effective screening methods. How to improve that?
This is what I am pointing out, that it is such a porous border.
Yeah.
That whatever fencing you do, whatever you do, it will not be easy to stop the influx of the Afghans, once the disturbances start in Afghanistan.
Okay.
Already I totally agree. Thousands of Afghans are coming without any passport, without any visa. They are crossing the border. Just pay few thousand rupees at the border checkposts, and they just get in. So, frankly, and the worry that I'm personally worried is that we have to prepare ourselves. We are not, I don't agree with Dr. Saab. He says that we have made all that meticulous planning.
No, I said I hope we have.
Well, we don't have any planning as such.
Actually, you are disagreeing with General Saab, because he said that you don't have to worry, the government of Pakistan knows what it is doing. General Saab,
well, that we have been looking at, even inside our country, yet the government is prepared, but the government is not prepared for anything.
Right. General Saab, regarding the border fencing and then this influx or possible fallout, What are the possible remedies, sir?
The first thing is, I think I agree what all three of us are at least saying one thing which is common, and you are also agreeing to that, and that is everybody, we assume, and I think this is a fair assumption, that everybody must have learned their lessons. Pakistan, Iran, Afghan Taliban, Afghan people, and this time, last time once the Russians left, the Americans left, there was a vacuum. This time only Americans are leaving, Chinese are there, Russians are there, Pakistan is there, Iran is there. The only thing is that Pakistan and Iran, they have to talk to each other, that let us not have any proxies. We have to make Afghan Taliban reassure Chinese that they will not support ETIM, and for the Russians, the Chechens. And I think this is all doable because they also understand. They also know that they cannot go for a unilateral sort of government. They will have to have a coalition government. Now, leaving all this aside, the question that you are asking, I mean, we cannot say that a physical fence which is quite formidable, I mean, it is not easily crossable. 80-90% of it has been completed. The past work is going on. It is the same as if it was not there. It is not like that. And the control mechanism is improving, of course, because of corrupt practices. Things are a little loose. So what happens in Pakistan? Whenever nobody able to control anything, whether it is the flood comes or the earthquake comes or there is what we call the pandemic is there, or any other calamity. So whenever the government fails to do something, what happens? The armed forces, they come to the rescue, which are a part of Pakistan. And I think if these posts are actually manned by armed forces rather than police and FC, the things will improve. And once we say that 60-70% of the area is already under the control of Taliban, and if they occupy another 30%, why are you expecting so much of influx in Pakistan? If the influx had to come, they would have been coming much earlier, because the area is already being controlled. So I think this time...
General Sir, but here's the thing. General Sir, I understand that you're talking about the possibility of influx of Afghan refugees. That is not the only concern we have. TTP is,
you are right.
Sir, with your respect, TTP is still alive and it is based in Afghanistan. So is BLA, BLF, and then Daesh also, sir. So there is always a possibility that somebody can slip through these channels and attack Pakistan.
I fully understand your point. This Daesh, TTP, ISIL, let me tell you, they were being supported by CIA, by RAW, by NDS. Now, once these forces are being defeated, what is your opinion that whether these forces will become weak or strong? And or do you think that under the Taliban control, they will still be allowed to attack Pakistan? No, sir. Once the Taliban rule was there, these forces were not attacking against us.
Sir, Mullah where was Mullah Fazlullah based, sir? When Taliban were calling shots and
Mullah Fazlullah was there. I don't want to go into details. The only thing is, there is a strong force, there is a weak force. You have choices. Either do not interfere at all. If you want to interfere, this is my suggestion. Go with the strong force and finish the weak force.
Okay. Is there, we keep on hearing about Ghuske Marenge. The rhetoric comes from India, it comes from Americans, it comes from Afghanistan, right? And yet Pakistan always playing the nice buddy and always actually at the receiving end of all the criticism, never says that if Afghanistan soil is being used against Pakistan, we are going to undertake some kind of kinetic measures to take care of BLA, BLF, for that BLO, and for that matter TTP. Why?
I think there are two reasons, and they are not of tactical rules of engagement, but mostly primarily rooted in diplomatic and geopolitical compulsions. During the first Afghan war as well, you would recall that number of times the Afghan Air Force would come to bomb the refugee camps of the Afghan Muhajirin. and the refugees.
Right.
And the Pakistani Air Force pilots would take off and try to intercept them.
Ambassador Saab doesn't agree. He's quite scowling. But
Yes,
he'll
yes,
actually.
he can have his
Yeah.
perspective. I'm giving my perspective, and the Pakistani Air Force would take off and intercept them in a manner to ensure that the debris of the shot down Afghan fighter falls inside Pakistan.
Right.
Because the fear was that if the debris fell inside Afghanistan, then the Soviet forces could use it as a pretext that there was an aggression from the Pakistani side. The same fear perhaps could be the underlying reason when the US and NATO troops were deployed. But once they are leaving and something irresponsible happens from the soil of Afghanistan, I'm sure our security forces will consider that option.
Right. But just before 9/11, I mean, I'm talking about 1989 to 2001, I mean, there were many hostile governments or groups, and they kept on attacking Pakistan's outposts as well. And Pakistan never sent its boots on ground. Pakistan never went for a kinetic. This is a choice. This is not merely, a part of calculation about what might happen. It is a choice. Pakistan keeps on being criticized and never sends its boots on ground. You wanted to actually comment on what was being said, sir.
Well, frankly speaking, first of all, that the propaganda against Pakistan by the Afghan media,
Yeah.
which is sponsored by RAW,
Right.
is so high that it has poisoned the minds of the most of the Afghan people. Despite the fact that we have given so much of sacrifices
Right.
for the Afghans, still, if you ask any Afghan, barring few exceptions, they would never speak good of Pakistan. They would always abuse Pakistan, and they always hold Pakistan responsible for all these atrocities that are perpetrated on them.
Right.
The problem is that, number one, we have never been proactive as for the media war in Afghanistan is concerned.
Right.
We must play a proactive role, infiltrate into the Afghan media, and invest among the people in Afghanistan to assure them that Pakistan is the only country which has always supported you, not India. Now, India has been using them for their own political purposes and to destabilize Pakistan.
Yeah.
They have no goodwill as such for the Afghans.
Right. But
Secondly,
sir,
we must build very strong relationship with Taliban, which frankly speaking has been ignored for quite some time,
yeah.
because when the Taliban were there in Afghanistan, and I very clearly remember that there were lots of incidents that the Afghan Taliban took responsibility of all those actions, if you remember.
Yeah.
And there was not even a single attack from the Afghan side on Pakistan, and this western border was terribly secured. But since that we supported the American troops,
Right.
and American and Indians have very close relations, and after the coming over of the Americans into Afghanistan, there has been a tremendous increase of the raw agents in Afghanistan.
Right. Right.
So, and they are poisoning the mind of the Afghan people
Okay.
against Pakistan. So number one, we have to take cognizance of this shortcoming.
So, I understand, Ambassador Saab, but let me actually sum it up, whatever you're saying. In past 20 years, Pakistan has been on receiving end because Pakistan has been allowing the G-locks, the air locks as well. Pakistan has been compromising on its interest because India kept on exploiting the situation in Afghanistan. Pakistan would do anything that it was asked of, but also be rebuked, right? On the other side, you were being rebuked because allegedly you were very close to Afghan Taliban. And there too, if you have read Mullah Zaif's kitab, his book, or for that matter, your own impression that Afghan Taliban are not very big fans of Pakistan either. So it seems to be quite an accomplishment of knowing all the parties without gaining anything.
Options choice.
Well, that is one of the failures of our policies, and that is what I am pointing out, that we have to build very strong relationship with the Taliban.
Okay.
Well, whether anybody likes it or doesn't like, or the Afghans like it or don't, we should be more interested in our own national interest.
All right.
So the Americans are supporting the Indians for their own national interest against all the human rights concerns and things like that. Why, if we can, why not? We should support the Taliban so that we have a friendly government.
Right.
On our borders.
And we are going to actually talk about that as well. Let me go back to General Saab. General Saab, here is a concern. I actually don't care what Afghan Taliban are and what exactly happens there. My concern is that all these religious movements, religious nationalist movements are one way or the other connected. And we have seen how people breakaway factions from TTP have actually regrouped and named themselves as Daesh Afghanistan or Khorasan for that matter. So Pakistan, that has lost something like 80,000 citizens to terrorism, do you think that any kind of connection with Afghan Taliban eventually will not strengthen such kind of elements in Pakistan?
I will try to stake out a fact as I see it. I see it as a fact. It may be my perception, and I'm just putting it across. Daesh and ISIL, other outfits like that, they have a worldwide agenda. They have a pan-world agenda. Taliban Pakistan, they have a regional agenda, especially they are against Pakistan.
Okay.
Afghan Taliban have a local agenda about Afghanistan. But what I am saying, it can be proved by history that whatever they have been doing, whatever they have been saying, this is a fact that Al-Qaeda, Daesh, ISIL, they have a world agenda. Taliban Pakistan, they have an agenda against Pakistan, and Afghan Taliban have a local agenda. They were fighting a freedom battle and all that. And they are the ones who are now likely to be the major stakeholders. Now, what does logic tell us? Irrespective, whatever, once we say that we should have no favorites, I do not subscribe to this thing, although I agree that let us not have any favorites. But just tell me, my dear, that a faction which was doing nothing to us and a faction which was doing everything to us, should we have them equal? The Ashraf Ghani's government through NDS, through RAW, they have been hitting us, they are causing us pain of the utmost order. And we say that now for us they are all equal. A very good thing to say. Anyway, let it be that. I say okay, let it be equal, and let the Afghans do whatever they want to do. If these are the principles, we should not allow any corridor, anything which should help Ashraf Ghani, because that means that we are not neutral. And similarly, we should not fear who comes in power, because that means we do not believe in Afghan-led and Afghan-owned. So we are saying that these two principles are, Saudi Arabia is a very good friend of us. What is their system? China is our best friend. What is their political system? Are we worried about it? So I understand that Afghanistan is too close to us. My dear sir, if your democracy does not deliver, Taliban will come not from Afghanistan, from within Pakistan. So if you really want to save your country, don't try to blame Taliban of Afghanistan.
Okay.
Try to blame yourself. Give people the justice. Give them education.
General Saab, with due respect, you are not telling me that the TTP that killed 80,000 people was not being given, or the democracy was not delivering for them, sir. With due respect, this is the point that I am trying to make, that there is hardly any good choice for Pakistan and Afghanistan. You might have alienated all the factions And here lies the fact
That is the bad thing.
Afghan
And that is
government
why-
might not
that
be
is why
great
Mr.
for
Minister Saab is
Pakistan.
saying, I agree with him
General
that
General
go and have
with due
something with
respect.
Afghan Taliban.
Hang on. Sir, let me just submit to you that while TTP was doing whatever it was doing in Pakistan, I never read one statement coming from Afghan Taliban's spokesman condemning that kind of attack. Did you?
I think you must have forgotten then. Afghan Taliban very clearly said that we are not with those people who are trying to hurt Pakistan. I can show you this three times. Three times they said this, not once.
Mullah Fazlullah was appointed for
Ask
by the
Minister
leadership.
just next to you.
But
Ask
allow me,
just
General
next to
Saab, let me actually come back for one final time to the studio. And let me ask Sayyid Muhammad Ali Saab, your conclusion, sir, if you can recommend a set of possible measures, but very quickly.
Very quickly, I'll just take 1 minute. Number one, I think Pakistan needs to continue its diplomatic efforts with all the stakeholders. Because like Ambassador Saab also pointed out, we must try to build our trust and respect with the Afghan nation, with all the communities. And that is why even the current visit of the Uzbek speaker and the Afghan speaker is also important. That through Uzbekistan we can reach out to the Northern Alliance because they have some leverage there. Secondly, we need to talk to all the regional players, whether it is Iran, whether it is Turkey, whether it is China, whether it is Russia. The common interest of all these countries is that we need stability and security in this region.
Okay.
So on that we need to build, and perhaps the most important thing which will ensure some stability and peace, although ideal and difficult in short run, is that we try to mutually build Afghanistan as a normal country by investing significantly and consistently in the socio-economic sector.
Why? Why not invest in Pakistan's border
No.
areas and be done?
No,
with
that is fine. That is because the security of CPEC, the security of BRI, the future of this interconnectivity, the geoeconomics, all depends upon the future of Afghanistan.
But with due respect, BRI is China's lookout. Ours is
Absolutely.
CPEC, right?
Yes.
And Pakistan is making its own project secure. We have actually raised a force for that. So why not invest only in Pakistan and be
Because
done with it?
it's a trading corridor. Because if the region is not secure, only securing the road and trains
but-
of our territory will not work.
No,
the
but-
region needs to
But
be secure and
CPEC
stable.
is essentially a north-south project. It is not east-west.
Yes, but the instability of Afghanistan will affect CPEC, which we need to prevent.
Right. Ambassador Saab, your conclusion, sir.
Well, having heard to my very good friends, I am personally of the opinion that it is high time for us that we must build very strong relations with the Taliban, revisit our relations with the Taliban, because whether we like it or we don't like it, they are the future rulers of Afghanistan. And of course, we also should have talks with the other stakeholders. And as for the peace in Afghanistan, of course, it affects Pakistan, but we should not be worried for that. When the Taliban, one order of Mullah Omar would stop the poppy cultivation from one end of Afghanistan to the other end of Afghanistan.
Right.
So the Taliban government is not like the Afghani government, where they have only 25 or 30% control on the Afghani. Taliban would have full control as they had in the past. So we should build very strong relations with the Taliban, revisit our relations, and at the same time also not forget the other Afghan factions, the ethnic...
Absolutely, sir. I'm just told that we have run out of time. General Saab, if you very quickly want to contribute, sir, please give
Just
your
half a
conclusion.
minute. I think with the help of China, Iran, Afghan people, Pakistan and Russia, we should all try to assist Afghanistan to gather their things and become a country which they should be, and I think it is doable, and we should try to keep Americans as far away as possible, because they are
Right.
aligned with Indians and they are right.
Right. General Saab, thank you very much for your precious time. Sayyid Muhammad Ali Saab, thank you very much for your precious time and coming to the studio. Ambassador Ali Shedri Saab, thank you very much for gracing the occasion as well. Viewers, you have listened to our participants. We have talked about what is going on in Afghanistan. If you remember the last program we did on the matter, and today, this seems to be a continuous descent of hope. There doesn't seem to be that much going on to actually give you a lot of hope. But here's the concern. I cannot worry about any other country because they have their own people to worry about these matters. But if after 20 years of actually eating all the onions and also being thrashed, if we still are thinking that they are not that great options for us, maybe we need a deeper dive into reflection, and that perhaps cannot be done without having a national security document. Let us first work on the basics, find a way out, and then rebuild the overall approach to various matters. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.